Welcome to Dynasty Rewind and our Start Sit show for the Week 5, the NFL season. We have Dustin Royer in here. We're going to give you some Week 4 takeaways as well as some moves to make. And Dustin, you coming in? There he is. And for our Start Sit decisions, Dustin, just remember, the answer is always Hunter Henry.
I don't know about that. We'll see. I'm more of a Kayshon Boutte guy myself.
All right. I can't hear you.
Right. You can't hear me? Oh, my goodness. That's on. That's you, buddy. I got my audio on. I'm working over here. Oh, no. Live stream central. Looks like we're having a few technical difficulties here. Can you guys out in the audience hear me? Yeah, I can hear. Okay. They can hear us, brother. No. So go down on the bottom right on your computer, hit the little speaker, and make sure that you're on your right connector there. Well, yeah, guys, welcome in. This is going to be our Sunday morning Start Sit. We're going to do a live stream. Now that Week 4 is over, I like to look at the NFL season in chunks. You know, the NFL, these teams, they really play in these 4-game windows. So we're going to have a couple takeaways to look back. We're going to talk a little bit about Malik Neighbors, unfortunately, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley. Just some takeaways from that. We're going to talk about some moves we've made with Malik Neighbors. And then the most important thing, we're going to get into some start sits for you guys. If you can, please just drop your comments in the chat. Super chats, if you can do them, you don't have to, but it helps keep the lights on over here. And we would all appreciate it. So please get those in. And then at the end of the show, we'll go through them here. First of all, I want to say welcome into Chris. You guys have been telling us you want start sits, you want some cornerback matchups, projections, weekly rankings. So we're bringing Chris in here. Make sure you follow him on X at Clemke007_FF. We're going to be putting out all kinds of content. He's going to be helping me so I can just rip it. I can get you guys all the information you need. So we're going to jump in here with a couple moves to make. Chris, why don't you go ahead and tell the people what you are doing to solve your Malik Neighbors problem? Maybe talk about a contender, maybe talk about a reload if you have one. Just give them a little breakdown of what you got going on here with your season. I know we don't want to always talk about our teams, but I'm a fantasy football player first, just like everybody else. I'm never going to recommend anything unless I'm the one that's going to also do it. Bottom line, we all got bills. We all got families. We all want to have fun. We want to win championships. We want to win money. So why don't you tell everybody, all of our rewinders here that are tuning in, what you're doing to solve your injury problems here to start the 2025 season.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Dustin, for bringing me in here. And this is just an honor to be here. And so with the Malik Neighbors issue this last week, I mean, I don't know that there's been another top 15 dynasty asset that's been more liquid in this last week that I can remember over the last couple of years. Part of it, I think, has to do with him being a wide receiver at that position. There's way more wide receivers than there are quarterbacks, than there are, starting running backs, and especially tight ends. And so because of that, when the injury happened, I basically started out by going through every one of my dynasty leagues and seeing who the Malik Neighbors owner was, knowing that the only guy who really is going to keep Malik Neighbors, the only type of owner of Neighbors, is a rebuilder, like a hard rebuilder. Everybody else, though, whether it's a contender or a middle of the pack team, they're questioning themselves as to what the hell am I going to do with this guy now, right? Because you go into your season with a guy like Neighbors, and you're having high expectations for the most part. So I had four Neighbors teams or four teams that were involved with Neighbors deals. Two of them rebuilds, and two of them were contenders. Now, the contending team, the first deal I want to bring out was because it's the simplest. All right. It ended up being Malik Neighbors and Jackson Dart for Justin Jefferson and Daniel Jones. All right. So it's simply, I was buying high on Daniel Jones, right? And getting rid of Jackson Dart at a point where right now, with Neighbors getting hurt and him coming off of a good performance in his first game, like his value, yes, it's going to probably stay high, but it could dip a little, right? He doesn't have Neighbors now going forward. And yes, he won that first matchup against the Chargers, big win. He played well, but is that going to continue the rest of the year? And is that something I want to bank on as a contender? Hell no. I'm buying into that Colts situation. I love all the Colts for contending teams, honestly, because there's talent everywhere there. You're not just buying into one player or, like last year, if you bought into Neighbors on a contender, think about what we thought about Malik Neighbors last year at this point, at week 4. He was almost untradeable unless somebody was giving you like 3 firsts, right? He was so hot, nobody wanted to get rid of him. So what I'm getting at is that I bought into Justin Jefferson on a contender and Daniel Jones because I want those points. I want to know that I'm getting them, and I feel confident and I can sit back and relax at those 2 positions on my teams. So that was a contender. On the opposite side, the main one I did was where I flipped a ton of contending older assets in a best ball dynasty.
We call those cans around here.
What was that?
We call those cans around here.
Well, they weren't all cans. In fact, Daniel Jones was on the other end of this one, and I don't call him a can anymore. He was a can when I picked him up in the 17th round.
Any third in the group chat for like the 3rd year in a row is going to feed your family. Danny Jones for any third, Sam Darnold for any third, Geno Smith for any third. You could just keep going,
Exactly.
So that's definitely depending on which side, like you're saying. Just real quick, before you get into all the pieces, before you decide to unload on some of these guys, like the pieces involved with, say, a Malik Neighbors trade, you just really have to assess like the long-term and short-term viability of your team. Because I feel like a lot of the stuff we say in the industry, someone will recommend to sell, someone will recommend to buy, and we're looking at the same player. Jones is kind of like a nice middle ground piece where what I'm really getting at is if you can take advantage one way or the other of the sentiment on the player, you have to do that. I moved a Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors, and then I also moved a first in like a turnaround deal because I had Justin Fields, I had Jackson Dart, and I had Sam Darnold. So in aggregate, I ended up with Harold Fannin Jr., Alec Iomanner, Cam Scatabo, Cam Ward. I'd have to look another piece, but essentially I just insulated around my wide receiver problem, propped up my entire team. And now I'm going to be running like 13 personnel with Tucker Kraft, Harold Fannin, Brock Bowers, and half-point PPR, point per first down league. So when you're contending, you have to make a move. I also got a Neighbor straight up for Ashton Genty on a contender. And I was spinning my wheels. I just want to let you guys know. I bought Malik Neighbors and Jackson Dart at 9:30 a.m. last Sunday on a team. And I went from contending to rebuilding within, a few minutes there. But Sigmund Bloom told me, you play to win the game, and the last thing I want to say real quick is this CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors injuries, all this stuff coming down the pipe. Like, this is the inflection point, just like Rashee Rice and Chris Godwin in 2024. And like, you don't have to consign yourself to quitting. You can dig in, you can make these moves, stick to the plan you had in the offseason, tap into people like me and Chris or whoever you follow, and you can make it happen. And I can say that because I did it last year. So go ahead there. Can you want to list off a few pieces you made with that trade, and then we'll jump into some other topics here.
Yeah. So real quickly, basically this was a best ball dynasty, and I was able to get rid of Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Michael Pittman, Chris Godwin, Jacoby Myers, Cooper Kupp, and Tony Pollard, all as a whole. And now I had put them on the block, and they were on the block for a day, and I didn't get any offers. So nobody in my league can complain that I ended up in a wholesale dump. But the fact is my squad, and this is the key. You got to look at your roster honestly. You have to be honest with yourself sometimes. Yes, I was 2-2 in this league, but I was second lowest in points scored. All right. So even though I had all of these contending pieces, things just weren't working out right. Cooper Kupp wasn't doing much. Tony Pollard, it's a rough situation there, right?
Yeah.
So the point being, even though it's best ball, and usually you want the more pieces in the deal, rather than me picking up a bunch of seconds and a bunch of thirds for these dudes, I was able to get a 27 first netted along with Malik Neighbors. I completed 5 trades in one trade, essentially. So
absolutely,
I was happy with contending. I was happy with it. Win-win. And that's the magic of Dynasty. That's how those kind of trades happen. You could never get something like that pulled off in a redraft or anything.
Right.
That
absolutely.
When you're not working with your league mates, that's how you build relationships within your league. And you just have to talk it out with your league mates. I mean, you don't want to alienate league mates. That's one major thing. Just because somebody sends you a stupid trade offer, don't offer them something dumb back and be egotistical that like, oh man, that's just ridiculous. You're a moron. Don't talk to them like that. That doesn't help your future. Most of our leagues are 12-team leagues. You only have 11 guys to trade with in your league.
Right.
Keep it that way.
Honestly, like, just open communication has helped me get more deals done, even in a situation. I'm the low ball guy sometimes. I watch the market, I do my thing. Right. And I've also gotten absolutely ridiculous offers in my inbox that feel offensive. You know what I do? I say to them, I said, okay, well, I know where your highest high is now. You know where my lowest low is now. I'm sure we can find a spot in the middle that works for both of us. As soon as you can figure out that dynamic, you only really need 1 or 2 trade partners, because then they might have 1 too. And those pieces cycle through, and you can get to assets that you might not be able to get to directly. That's like a really big thing within dynasty leagues. You have to always look at like the micro market. And last thing on Malik Neighbors before we, because I'll cry. I don't even want to talk about it for real.
No,
I'm just messing around.
You didn't want to talk. Yeah.
I was gutted. Well, dude, I had 3 Jackson Dart shares already, bought 2 Jackson Dart shares, somehow managed to get off of Nico Collins for Neighbors and Scatabo. And then that happens. But what I was going to say, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud that a lot of people don't want to say about Malik Neighbors. Sell him, buy him, whatever you want to do right now. But I can almost guarantee that there's going to be a dip in the market for him as soon as we get deeper into point scoring season or later into the off season, whenever we start to run out of things to talk about and the narrative street hits, etc. Obviously he's going to probably stay within, close to that top tier. but you're going to have access to Malik Neighbors multiple times throughout the next year. So just be careful. Don't rush out and hit the nuke button when we're going into week 5 here, either direction. So yeah, that's good with the Malik Neighbors stuff here. I think we kind of hammered that one home. I wanted to talk about what you think about this first 4 weeks of the NFL season. Kind of looking at, because, all we can do going into a season, we look back at last year's points, we look at production, maybe we look at coaches, we look at trends, I look at personnel. But for me, I think this 4 weeks is a good chunk to really look back and see what's changed. So I'm just curious, like from going into the season in your startups and your trade game plan, coming out of week 4 into week 5, what do you have going on there? Like what kind of adjustments are you making? Any players you really want to highlight? Like I'm going to talk about a few guys I think you need to be aggressive on. I'm going to talk about a few guys that I absolutely just pooped in my big boy pants when I recommended them. That's a Browns joke, by the way. But go ahead, Chris. Why don't you tell people your takeaways here from the first 4 weeks of the NFL season?
Well, first of all, I think there were a lot of great performances by rookie wide receivers last year, right? We had Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, right? Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd have obviously not performed like we wanted them to. So what are we doing with them? Like, where do you value Ladd McConkey versus his own teammate, Quentin Johnston, who was a super disappointment for a couple of years, his first 2 years. I mean, people were just giving him away to open up a roster spot, basically. And now, I mean, I would take Quentin Johnston over Ladd McConkey on any contending team. I'm taking Quentin Johnston. And it sounds crazy to say. If you would have told me I would have been saying that a month ago, I thought you're nuts. But it has to do with Justin Herbert stepping it up. I do think that McConkey will rebound here. Like his targets have not been bad. All right. Last week was only 1 catch for 11 yards, but he had 6 targets. Okay. So that's one of the major situations where you can take advantage of somebody wanting to get off of McConkey, because I think he will bounce back. I do think that Keenan Allen will get injured at some point this year. I mean, that's a pretty safe bet that Allen will get hurt at some point this year. And even if he doesn't, he's not going to be there forever, right? And Ladd will bounce back. So that's one major player that you could at least take advantage of the dip on. I don't know that he's going to ever have a season as good as he had last season. So I wouldn't buy too high on Ladd, but that's one guy. Now, Brian Thomas is another situation where I just don't know that BTJ's got that alpha mentality, right? Like Jamar Chase is having a rough season so far, of course, because of the Burrow injury. And that's a whole nother topic you can talk about. But Jamar Chase walks out onto the field and he feels like he is the best player on the field, right? Every week. CeeDee Lamb, same way. Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, I feel like he's a dude that is okay taking a back seat to somebody like Travis Hunter, who happens to be his teammate now, right? So going forward, right now, I'm not buying any BTJ shares actively. I'm just kind of, I have 1 share of him in Dynasty. And so he's just kind of hanging out there. And, it has more to do with Trevor Lawrence than BTJ. There's the whole theory on that Mac Jones just did it all. Now, I think that BTJ has more talent than Kendrick Bourne, who happened to get.
It's
10.
Just a matter of the type of offense and the fact that Lawrence can't execute a 1-2-3 progression style system.
He's such a first-rate quarterback.
Yeah, he's a see it, throw it guy. He's a point and shoot guy. My whole contention with Lawrence is he has a slow processor. And then on top of that, the franchise has continually enabled him to not develop. As they drafted ETN, they took Evan Ingram. Like, they just continue to give him these little check down options and do absolutely nothing to like force him to push the ball down the field. Now, they do have Hunter and BTJ now, so obviously you would think that would be the case. But I hate saying Brian Thomas Jr., Mike Evans comparison, because that was like all the rave in the beginning, last year when he was being drafted. But it's a situation more so where Mike Evans is the 2 in the offense as far as a structure goes, because he's the X receiver. Chris Godwin is the 1 in the structure of the offense due to volume, checkdowns, etc. But Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer. He's obviously the number 1 wide receiver. And then you have Chris Godwin. So I think it's going to be a miniature dynamic like that. It's going to take some time. I mean, I think they need to establish Travis Hunter over the middle, but their defense is terrible. So they just have themselves in a situation where they're kind of just spinning their wheels. I was on the Travis. Yeah, right. But I said this before. I'm not sure that Liam Cohen's going to be able to continue to scheme them up like that if Lawrence can't get to the point where he can execute. So like what he does, he'll run a rep and it's perfect. And then he'll go to run a next rep and he'll be like, I need to add a little bit of Superman to this one. And then he'll just blow it. Like he can't consistently, he's not a system quarterback. That's what it is. Like he has that Patrick Mahomes like wild part, but he's not talented enough to control it. You know what I'm saying? Like he thinks he can go off script and be the golden boy, but he's just not. His processor's not fast enough. He sees it, he throws it, but the DB sees it too. And they're coming downhill. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I feel like they could be like a landing spot for a retread quarterback.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. Now, we also have trouble with the Eagles passing game, and that brings up one of our first questions in the chat here. Starts at Chase Weber. Welcome, Chase. Now, you're saying you can't believe I'm considering sitting AJ Brown. Yeah, neither am I. Start 3, AJB, Ibuka, Olave, or Waddle. Oof. Well, Waddle I know is going up against Carolina this week. But the Tyreek injury, and we'll get into some of the injuries from last week in a little bit, but so obviously with the Tyreek injury, Waddle's expected to get more targets. You've got Darren Waller, the baller, coming up with a big 2 touchdowns last week. Now it was on 3 catches, so I don't know how sustainable that's actually going to be, but it's a tough one. I'm still with all the talk on AJB, it's going to happen where they have that 10 target week and he gets his 6-7 catches for 100+ yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns. So I don't know. Waddle just scares me a lot, so I'm leaning away from him, and I would probably stick with your big 3 guns and keep Waddle on the bench. Where are you at on that one, Dustin?
So just fundamentally, like I'm the kind of guy, so if you drafted AJ Brown, this is a dynasty asset, whatever it may be. I mean, you're pretty invested in him. So I look at myself and I say this: if I lose with AJ Brown on my bench and he goes off, how am I going to feel versus if I start AJ Brown, he has an okay game and I lose by a couple points, but there's some hope there. Like I'm not willing to sit a guy like him, especially when you're looking at a situation like with Waddle. Now, you look at it and obviously like, oh, he's supposed to be the wide receiver 1. But how many times are we going to convince ourselves over and over again that Jalen Waddle is going to be the wide receiver 1? Because almost every time he's had that opportunity. Sans his rookie year where he was the only wide receiver, he really hasn't lived up to that production. And actually, one of my takeaways from the first 4 weeks, I've been on this Malik Washington train since last season. Coaches don't rave about players move around in the draft. I think I'd have to look again. I think they might have moved an extra third or something last year to go up. I know McDaniels was like trying to draft him over and over. Matt Harmon at Reception Perception and Yahoo had him graded out as a day 2 guy. But when a team literally drafts a clone of a player you already have that's over 30 years old, that's an indicator. And then, I really started sniffing on it when Odell Beckham Jr. retired last year. Tyreek Hill's incidents with the police and other things going on. I thought for sure he was going to get traded, so I'm not victory lapping this whatsoever. But Washington has the skill set that is necessary to really walk into that volume role. I believe he set an ACC record for receptions and a Virginia record for receiving yards in his senior season. Last year, even though he had low volume, he had a 61%. I don't remember. It was like open score or reception rate or something like that. And in the preseason, the one game that they played against a starting defense, both Waddle and Tyreek were out. And I believe he was like 5 receptions and a touchdown. He had like a 40-yard yards after the catch tutty. And I think I talked previously, him and Tua, they have this fishing boat narrative. Apparently, they've been going out on the ocean and fishing, and it's like the Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford breakfast thing, except for it's Hawaiian. So like it works, you know what I'm saying? But I would just be skeptical about Waddle. Long story short, stick with AJ Brown, stick with Igbuka. Olave is getting the targets. And
Yes.
To say what you said about Ladd McConkey, I don't really see much of a difference between Ladd and Olave, except for Ladd's in a better offense with a better coach, with a better quarterback. He's been getting 7 to 8 targets, something like that, averaging 7 targets. Mm-hmm. He had the bicep injury. He had an undisclosed lower body injury. But the biggest thing that I've noticed with Ladd, and it's one of my largest takeaways for the beginning of the season, these refs are just letting these guys get worked in press coverage right now. Like it went from defenseless receiver penalties every other second to now they're really, really letting these guys play with contact. And, with the amount of time down the field they had in the beginning of the season when their line was healthy and everything, Ladd wasn't getting a lot of opportunities. He was getting not exactly shadowed, but he was getting kind of the 1A shutdown treatment. Like you said, Keenan Allen's more than likely going to have a hamstring or a soft tissue injury at some point. But the biggest reason I think Ladd's probably going to bounce back is their line's decimated. So I don't know if they're going to have the time that it's going to take to get the ball into the intermediate and deep end of the field. And I could really see a Rondé Gadsden just making Keenan Allen completely redundant at a point, especially if they're going to have to run a condensed offense with a lot of yak. Keenan's great. He's a route runner, but he needs the cloud coverage to get kind of pulled over. Yeah. He doesn't have the athleticism anymore to really do too much. He's basically their tight end. I mean, that's essentially what they've been doing with him.
No, don't say that because I love Rondé Gadsden, but
I love Rondé Gadsden too, and I love Keenan Allen. I drafted Keenan Allen every year and just kept winning money over and over and over because he's been old since he was 25. He's been injury prone since he was 22, supposedly. But man, just start those guys. Olave is going to get the points, the production's there, and I honestly think more than likely they're going to switch quarterbacks soon. I mean, they have to.
Yeah. Shook's going to get in there. That game in and of itself, like the Saints-Giants game, I think could turn into a circus, and you want pieces in that game if you can. even without Neighbors, the Giants offense still can put up points. I mean, you've got Slayton, you've got Hyatt, and of course Wan'Dale Robinson. So there's still pieces there that Dart has to sling it to. So I think he can still have a good performance this week. And yeah, if you've got pieces, that's a game where you've got a couple of ugly defenses. Well, I mean, they're not terrible, but I'm just saying that game could be high scoring. The Panthers Miami game, I don't know. The Panthers defense looked pretty solid last week, and Miami's just a situation where the only piece I really want a part of is Achane. And other than that, I'm kind of still out on Waddle, even with the Tyreek.
Yeah. I'm not convinced that Malik Washington isn't going to end up being the wide receiver one there. I could see it happening pretty easily.
Yes, I do think he's worth the pickup, like in a redraft format. If you need a body at wide receiver, absolutely grab Malik Washington.
You could get him in the 4th last year for free off waivers and just stash him, and now he's the only, like, everybody's looking for a wide receiver.
Right.
You know,
in Dynasty, I mean, he should have been rostered already. So, I mean, if you've got him, good for you. You can plug him in as your last flex this week. I'm not down on that. Let's see here. We want to get into the rookie running backs who, of course, finally blew up last week, and we'll discuss those. Brian K asks, he was a couple before Chase Weber there. He asks, would you sell high and trade Woody Marks for a late 26 first? I have Genty, Cook, Chase Brown, Kamara, and Warren. Whew. Well, unless you can flex all those dudes, I mean, yeah, you've got yourself a good backfield going there, Brian. You do not need Woody Marks to start. So if you can get a late 26 first, I am absolutely doing that, because Woody Marks, as much as I love him, and you can go back, if you go over to the Birdhouse Dynasty show, you can see a month and a half ago, I did claim Woody Marks as my Kyron Williams / Bucky Irving of this year. And voila, it's now happening. And yes, I'm excited, but you have to temper that excitement. Woody Marks was just a 4th round pick. All right. He's not Ashton Genty. He's not Warren Hampton. He's not a 1st round pick, right? That doesn't mean, so what that means is that the Texans aren't heavily invested in him. Yes, Nick Chubb is there, and he's probably gone after this year, but that means they'll probably bring in another body, right? How good that guy will be, we don't know yet. They could draft a running back in the 2nd round or 3rd round, right? Who has more talent than Woody. At the same time, Woody brings that explosiveness.
Vehemently disagree with half of what you just said, just so you know.
This
running, you'll never find a running back the quality of the guys that were drafted in the 4th round this year.
Oh, yes.
In the 4th round again. Like, right. That is the inverse thinking on this draft. Let me just speak my piece. I got to get this out.
This year definitely is equal to a 2nd or 3rd rounder. The point is that Houston, they may not draft one, but they could bring in Travis Etienne next year. They could get a veteran. And so as much as I love Woody, with your roster in particular, with all those other backs, if you can get a 26 first, which you have a lot of flexibility, you could flip that into a wide receiver. You could help yourself buy a quarterback later. Your situation is perfect to go ahead, yes, and get a playoff 26 first from someone. I would definitely do that. If someone in your league's willing to give you that, I'd say go ahead and go for it, Brian. I like it. Dustin,
the only thing I would
deal?
Yeah, I mean, you have to take the liquid asset, especially, like, I'm assuming if you have Genty, Cook, Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara, you're probably pretty loaded up. I'd imagine you're not a natural 101. You probably ended up with the pick. You're pretty savvy. The only thing I would caution with this lineup, though, so when I'm looking at your running backs, you have Genty and Cook. Those are locked in. Those are your 2 starting RBs. Right now, Chase Brown is probably worth about a fifth of what his value was before the season. Alvin Kamara is a little bit down, but his stretch of games coming up, he's probably going to blow back up. And then you have Jaylen Warren coming off a knee and potentially this, whole Gainwell narrative, etc. So the one thing that I would do if you offload Woody, I would really be paying attention to those 3 running backs. Take a stand on 1 or 2 of them, but whoever has a blow-up game, whoever's value spikes, I would try to flip out of them into somebody younger, even just like the next Woody Marks. I mean, there's still a handful of guys from this class that haven't really blown up yet. Like there's some Ja'Cory Krosky merit managers out there that paid too much for him. I bet you they would let him off their hands there. Maybe even with Alvin Kamara, see if you can get a piece of Kendre Miller. You might end up with a split because AK might get traded. So just think about insulating the back end of your running backs there, because you don't want to get yourself into a situation where either bye weeks or like one little injury where a guy misses a game ends up losing you the matchup you need. And then you're bumped out of a bye, or you're bumped into like 7th place and there's no median score, 7th place guy for playoffs, etc. So just be cautious, but you have to take a first. I mean, a first now could become anything. It's only going to go up in value.
Yeah. But I mean, you brought up the back 3 there, Chase Brown, AK, and Warren. Like Chase Brown, I don't even know who I'd want right now, Woody or Chase Brown, honestly, if you throw him.
Yeah.
One's going one way and the other's going in the other direction, right?
Yeah.
I think the Bengals are going to bounce back at some point. I mean, Jake Browning, he hasn't looked good, but 2 years ago looked solid. I can't imagine he's just going to make that offense completely fall off the map.
I'm not sure that Chase Brown can recreate the production, though, because the environment offensively isn't the same. Like whenever you were lining up against the 2024 Bengals, Chase Brown wasn't even on the film review because you had all the other guys to deal with, so that made it so like the least worry of anybody about the Bengals was Chase Brown. Now they can't even execute a forward pass. So it's like, everybody's killing Chase Brown. Now, I know it's been beat to death, but if you look at the Dallas Cowboys, literally the environment being created by their passing game is what's allowing 80% of what Javonte used to be to operate at 110% production. Right. And what's the lesson
we can't get that right now?
Right.
Yeah.
And you were just talking about Woody Marks, right? So Chase Brown was Woody Marks last year. So it can go either way. You got to get in, you got to get out when you can.
Yeah. The key is to take what you see and don't be afraid of going against your preconceived notions. A lot of people, that's probably one of the biggest mistakes people make is, okay, I drafted Jamar Chase. Boom, he's my locked and loaded. No, it's the situations change, right? And you have to act on them when they do. And that brings up one of our next guys' questions here. Tyler Sparks, he asks, Waddle or RJ Harvey this week? So another rookie running back that blew up on Monday night. RJ Harvey getting some more looks on Monday night. I think it was, very promising that Peyton kept him in there in the 4th quarter to get the volume, to get the kid some experience. J.K. Dobbins is there, but again, I hate giving the injury prone label, but, Dobbins has never made it through a full season. Let's be honest, right? So maybe he was trying to save Dobbins in that regard, but the bigger point is RJ Harvey's more explosive. If you watch the Broncos, you can see the explosion there. And so Peyton, obviously, he wants him to become his Alvin Kamara, essentially, right? And so I was very excited what I saw there. The Broncos take on, who are they playing this week? Why am I blanking?
I just looked it up.
The Eagles. Okay. They're playing Philly. So that is a game script that actually favors RJ Harvey, I'd say, opposed to Dobbins. So I don't know. For me, I'm leaning RJ Harvey there. What would you say, Dustin, in that spot?
It's a tough one. I mean, so one of my takeaways here from the season is that touchdown equity is more important than ever. With the new dynamic kickoff rule, right? You get the ball at basically the 30, the 35, or the 40-yard line. So now the field is basically shorter. 60, 70 yards, right? So it's leading to a lot more decisions from these offensive coordinators to try to create explosives. And RJ Harvey has a nose for the end zone. I mean, you see him on your app on Sleeper, you see his measurables, but he reminds me so much of Maurice Jones-Drew, the way that he runs. Like, he's just a bowling ball. And Peyton came out, I believe, last week and said that the deployment from last week was more on par with what they wanted to do, more of like a 50-50 split. And it could be pretty easy for the Eagles, especially with this A.J. Brown squeaky wheel game coming. I mean, they could end up down pretty major. They could end up in comeback mode. And, we could get like that first like PPR scam from Harvey. But I think he has a little bit more touchdown equity than you would think, because anywhere from the low red zone in, like from the 30 in, he can really bust a run. I harp on 40-yard times all the time and talk about how an explosive run's actually only 15 yards, but he has the type of speed and contact balance to just absolutely go nuclear. Waddle's a guy, like I was saying before about A.J. Brown, I'm okay with losing if he's on my bench, because I just can't trust him week to week. He's liable to be the wide receiver one and go off. He's also liable to pull his hamstring.
He's saying that was a trade question, actually. Okay.
What, Waddle for Harvey? Oh, yeah.
I'm leaning Harvey. I don't. The format.
Do me a favor. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is it super flex? Is it PPR? And how many starters do you have? If you could drop that in the chat, that would help out a lot.
If you could let us know, Tyler, how many teams, how many starters, half or full PPR. Those are Dynasty. I'm hoping it's Dynasty. But let us know those, and then we'll continue on that one. We can go back a couple of questions here. We had a Brian Thomas one, so we can circle back.
What are we selling?
What are we selling Brian Thomas for? Okay, so we both kind of touched on it, and I don't think either of us are.
So I have nothing to say. But, I really don't have anything to say, just because I don't roster Brian Thomas Jr. anywhere. I didn't draft him. I sold him on all the teams that had him. I sold him for Puka Nacua. I traded A.J. Brown off to the schematic thing I was telling you about. I mean, everybody wanted to make BTJ the Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin guy, but that's not the position that he plays. Like, one thing I think we need to help translate with people is like wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in your app and on a depth chart doesn't mean X receiver can play Z receiver can play Y, this kind of thing. It's still a game. It still has rules. It still has laws within offenses and defenses. And that's a lot of the stuff that we're going to keep bringing to you guys. You guys are asking for cornerback matchups. Just keep digging in and get you some more heady stuff. But for me, BTJ is a hold, really, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. I just don't think he's the kind of guy they're going to want more than you want to trade him for. And if you're selling him, you're not going to want to pay. Like, he's just got to stay on your roster until it gets figured out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if you sell him right now, you're just eating so much. Like literally, who I guess if you could sell Brian Thomas Jr. for Quentin Johnston right now, that'd be an interesting deal. It seems scary, like you're giving up a lot in value, but like if you're contending.
Here's the thing for me though, is like Quentin Johnson and BTJ are basically the same exact player. They produce production in the same exact way. So what if this is the 4 games that BTJ is bad, and that's the 4 games that Quentin Johnson is good? Because the market will correct itself way faster on QJ. 99% of his career, everybody's been all the way out. So that's one that I'm being really, really cautious about with the QJ trades. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just
QJ trades. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I sold high on him. I got Jackson Dart and Devontae Adams for him. So,
well, that's beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, and a couple cans, but I'm not going to get into that. But
yeah.
All right, we got some more questions rolling in here, guys. Yeah, please hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, check out the channel. We do our best, like I was saying. We don't need all those crazy super chats. If anybody can do a super chat, not this week even. We got about 15 minutes left, but we're going to continue to roll out these live chats. We're going to do start sits. We're going to get a trade show going. Just keep leaving us comments on the videos. Keep dropping us comments on X. Tell us what you guys want. We're bringing more people on board. We got, more people in the back end, and we just want to keep cranking out actionable content so you guys can enjoy every day of the Dynasty season. It's gonna be a roller coaster, but let's get into it here.
So Tyler gave us his requirements here: full PPR, 10 starters, 12 team, and no super flex. No super flex. So at 10, it's almost like an 11 starter league in super flex. It would be, because there's no quarterback involved in this deal with Waddle and Harvey. I'm just going to lean the younger asset there. Harvey is somebody who I liked, and I wasn't even super high on him, honestly. Like people had Caleb Johnson below him. I had Caleb ahead of him still throughout most of the rookie process. Obviously, that hasn't started out very well for Caleb, but Caleb's not part of this deal. We're at this point now going into week 5, and Harvey is showing production, and it can only get better, right? Like going forward, J.K. Dobbins is not part of the Broncos' future, right? And even though Harvey was an older back being drafted at 24, 25 years old, he's going to play out his rookie deal with the Broncos. And that's what we can really look at here. And I'm buying into that versus Jalen Waddle and what we've seen for 4 years, 5 years, where he's not taken that next step. So I think Harvey can, and I don't believe that Waddle will. So that's where I'm at, really.
Yeah.
Is what it boils down to.
As an asset, you're looking at the same risk reward between Waddle and Harvey. They could both spike. They could both be spike week players, but we have a ton of evidence that Waddle is always going to be like that. You're going to go down in age. You're going to go down in injury history, and you're going to get potentially a starting running back. And if you play your roster construction right, you could be throwing this guy into your, flex or flex 2 spot and getting, just crazy production. So I'm all for that, especially in a single QB league. You got to start 10. Yeah. When you're around 9 or 10 starters, you want to try to consolidate into known assets. And then for me, I want my bench to be as volatile as possible. I want to stash as many running backs as I can. And I want to be able to churn the bottom no matter what. Yeah, so that I can always take those shots. That's one of the reasons this year I collected up a lot of 25 picks whenever this class wasn't as good as 24. And then I sold a bunch of those firsts for CeeDee Lamb, some other guys. Now, I know he's injured, but that process led me.
Value held. It's
right. But what I'm getting at though is that process of those acquisitions and stuff, all those extra thirds and fourth round picks that I acquired, I have every single rookie breakout running back on my team now. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So you just got to always spin the wheel. You want to lean into that volatility throughout the season, especially in the off season. I'm going to really get into anti-fragility. I'm really going to get into my prospect modeling I've been working on for a couple years, because I'm not the kind of guy that'll say something on Monday and then change his mind on Wednesday. But we'll really, really get into some of this stuff for you. But yeah, I think that's probably a home run. It's the same risk reward. Harvey's going to keep his value. He's younger, and you could have like a league winning piece this year, maybe even, next year, but maybe this year. You never know.
Yeah. And heading into the off season, you're going to be looking at Harvey as more of a liquid asset than Waddle, even with the position, because Harvey's going to have that narrative of either he's already the number one there in Denver or going to be that number one. Whereas Waddle, like we both said it, he just isn't, right?
Well, I want to show this real quick from Matt. So this trade right here structurally is the Jalen Waddle RJ Harvey trade, but just tiered up again. You know, you're looking at a potential volatile asset, but they're both going to hold value. It's pretty obvious that if Ramondre and Gibson make it through this year with any sort of touch share by the end of the season, the way they're playing, they're not going to be around next year. It's just not going to be the case. Even if they have to bring in like a Jordan Mason archetype guy to just take some stuff off of him. So I think Henderson, personally, since we're talking start sits, Henderson would be I'm projected to be down and I need a home run. Like, I'm plugging him into my flex everywhere. I have him in my FFPC 350 high stakes league. I threw him right in. I think this is going to be the week where the levee breaks. And we've been seeing it with these rookie running backs. It's not one of those things like a wide receiver where maybe they get some snaps, maybe they get a game when the other guy's out. When these backfields flip, they flip. You know, and if you're caught on the end of that market either way, you're going to be left holding the bag. So,
yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, like, this is the running back class. You've been playing long enough, Dustin. 2017, those guys all ended up taking it over eventually, and that is what's going to end up happening with these guys. So even if you're buying high this week after pretty much all of those running backs got in the end zone last week, so if you're buying them, you are buying a little high, but you're buying high with room to grow. Like, they're nowhere near their ceiling yet. And so I love that deal too. We've got another one down here.
Let's get to this start sit question real quick.
Yeah, let's
from Michael Herget. Do we want to start Brian Thomas Jr. or Michael Pittman? I want you to grab this one, Chris, because you are all in on Danny Dimes. So why don't you talk about Danny Dimes as part of one of your takeaways, and then why don't you talk about this start sit question for me?
Yeah, so the Colts offense in general was one of the best offenses you could buy this offseason, right? I was of the belief that Danny Dimes would, if not start week one, eventually take over for Anthony Richardson. And so I got him in a bunch of startups round 15 through 19-ish. And fortunately, whether it was the Anthony Richardson thumb injury or Danny Dimes just had more comprehension of the playbook, Jones was the one that started week one, and he has not taken his foot off the gas. Like, he has taken control of this offense. He's using all of the pieces, and Michael Pittman so far has been the biggest beneficiary of it. Right? He's come back from the dead. Like, Michael Pittman was somebody you could not get off of your roster last year or the year before. You were literally stuck with a planet asset. Gone were the days of getting a first for him. You could barely get a second for him. You were stuck maybe getting 2/3 for Pittman, and now he's back up to being in the discussion. I compare him to what Terry McLaurin was last year, because what Pittman is in this offense for Daniel Jones is that consistent chain mover week in and week out. It's hurt Josh Downs, right? But Josh Downs is just a different role in that offense. And I'm not down on Downs. It's just that he hasn't hit yet one of the weeks. Now he's going to be more inconsistent though. And then you've got the home run hitters in A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce. And then of course the rookie Tyler Warren. And then it all bounces back to Jonathan Taylor. So this was an offense heading in that I think people just unfortunately glossed over. And all they saw was Jonathan Taylor. And even though Jonathan Taylor won a ton of people leagues last year, they still just ignored the talent Michael Pittman had. Because the fact is, Michael Pittman, yeah, he underperformed the last 2 years, but he didn't change. The environment around him just changed. And so if you were lucky enough to buy into Pittman this offseason, kudos to you. And now you're reaping the benefit of it, and you've got a solid, consistent performing player. And if you're asking me Pittman or Brian Thomas right now, I'm starting Pittman. That's pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, I was all over that in the offseason too.
What was that?
Sorry, go ahead. I said I was all over this Indy offense in the offseason too. I mean, if you follow the breadcrumbs, I mean, Steichen got that job because of the offense he executed with the Eagles. So they draft Tyler Warren. The offense is designed over the middle of the field, right? Daniel Jones, that's where all his game's at, over the middle of the field. So I had been saying that he would be like the floor for this offense.
Right.
I had projected like I'd been collecting Daniel Jones shares for almost nothing. He was basically free in startups. It was the 2024 Sam Darnold. As soon as that, either they updated the name or they dropped it in the group chat, any third, and it was on. But like, this is one of those moves when people say there's not edges left anymore. The edges are in understanding when the market goes one way, but reality is somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So we got Sam Darnold again this year. We got Daniel Jones. Jackson Dart looks like potentially he could be the best quarterback in this class already. But yeah, there's tons of examples of that. You always want to take advantage of that ebb and flow. I just wanted to shout out Tyler Sparks again. Hey, man, thank you for the question. Thank you for giving us that follow-up information too. I'm going to update our little banner thing and kind of put in what we're looking for as far as information for next week. We have another question here. Special grade NEN user. We got Harvey or Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt today, half PPR. Let me just say something real quick. I got to get this off my chest. The man's mother nicknamed him Bill, right? Everybody knows the story. He had no hair. He looked like Little Bill. That's great. He gets into the NFL. Everyone in the media is calling him Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. The man had an interview with the NFL. He said, "Just call me Bill because my name is too much to say." So then, you know what we do as a community? We call him Bill Krosky Merritt. And it just goes against the guy's wishes. So please call the man JCM, call him Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, call him Bill, but don't call him late for dinner. And saying all that, I'm starting RJ Harvey. I just have this feeling that he's about to pop off. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, I mean, he's been the highest PFF graded running back. He's got all these, he looks incredible. I just struggle with Dan Campbell, the kind of coach he is, the fact that their quarterback has an injury. I'm just not quite sure that this backfield is going to pare down to two guys until potentially we see another injury or they start to really struggle. I mean, whenever you have a backup QB come in, you play pretty well. they're not going to probably change up too much, because Daniels can execute above what Mariota did injured. So I would just be cautious with JCM. It's really it's a coin flip. I mean, now that I'm thinking about format again, half PPR touchdowns is going to be massive. I mean, JCM has shown touchdown equity. If you're projected to lose, start Harvey. If you're projected up or on par, start JCM.
Fair enough. I'm leaning Harvey, probably either way, just because I think he has the touchdown upside, even inside, even when the Broncos get inside the 20, like it's not just all Dobbins, right? You were talking about Harvey and his explosiveness and, the way the field position is set up for teams this year with the kickoff. But still, I think Harvey, just as a floor, is higher. Even with the half PPR, I think I would just lean Harvey in this one. All right. So if we get back into some of our takeaways.
No, we're running out of time here. I was just about to let the people know where they could find us.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem here. I just have 14 lineups to go check because I'm a sicko like we should be.
I got a couple myself to check. No problem.
But yeah, man. What I was going to say thank you, Chris, first of all, for jumping on board with me. Thank you for all your time this week for us to start getting this set up. I'm really excited to bring all of our subscribers, new and old, all the content that they're looking for. Make sure you follow me on X at all22_FF. Make sure you follow Chris at Klemke007_FF. Please subscribe to the channel, share it with the guys in your league if you're friends with them. If not, share other stuff with the people you don't like and only watch our stuff for yourself. Whatever you want to do, man. Just have fun. It's fantasy football. We're all just a bunch of grown little kids on the internet playing a game, but take it seriously. We all want to win. We want to be successful here. So yeah, just follow the channel, follow Chris, follow me. Please, if we didn't get to any trade questions you had, drop them in the comments for us and be on the lookout for that notification. We're going to be going live all the time. We're going to be bringing Chris's trade show over. We're going to have Mike and Nate on every once in a while. We're going to bring some guests. We're really going to keep ramping this thing up. We're going to try to get better every week. And thank you guys so much for tuning in.